Hello, this is Mi Yoon from the American Cuisine Department. Today is May 22nd, and we will begin the American Cuisine News. Today, Mi Yoon will deliver the latest updates on the United States stock market without any changes. About an hour before I started recording, a new video was uploaded to Mi Yoon's channel. This video was recorded by Representative Kim In-jung, so if you haven't watched the live broadcast yet, please check out the live broadcast first and then see which new video Representative Kim In-jung has uploaded. I think it would be good to check directly. Alright, then let's start today's Bing 2 news for May 20th right away. Now, I will summarize the highlights of the United States stock market. If you look at the S&P 500 chart, it has been rising recently. But yesterday it paused a bit and then fell back. So it ended up closing with a 0.87% increase. Most of the sectors in the S&P 500 map were colored red, showing a decline. This is what you see here. The reason why only Google was able to rise like this yesterday is something I'll explain in detail in a moment. Now, let's check why the after-hours market sentiment wasn't so good yesterday, starting from this part. This is the title of this article. The article says that the United States stock market fell due to concerns over the national debt ceiling, but I think we need to take a closer look at the details. Recently, United States Treasury yields have surged. Especially the yields on 20-year and 30-year long-term Treasury bonds hit their highest levels in about a year. This happened because investors were concerned about the United States government's fiscal deficit. The government explained that the reason for the increased bond issuance is to further stimulate the sluggish national tax revenue. Here we have 20-year bonds and 30-year bonds. National bonds are money that investors lend to the United States government. So 20-year bonds are money lent for 20 years, and 30-year bonds are money lent for 30 years. Now, the reason why investors are hesitant to lend money to the United States government like this is because the United States economy is slowing down, and the United States' status is weakening. That's why people are worried about whether it's okay to lend money to the United States government for such a long period. That's why interest rates go up. So, when there is a sense of insecurity, you have to pay a higher risk premium to borrow money. And that's why you have to offer higher interest rates to attract investors. That's basically how it works. And then, for example, when a country's fiscal deficit isn't good, what happens? The country's credibility drops. Investors who want to invest in United States government bonds are becoming more cautious, and that's basically what's happening. Donald Trump is pushing for the enactment of his major budget plan, called the One Big Beautiful Bill. However, economists are warning that this bill could worsen the fiscal deficit. According to the analysis of the Congressional Budget Office, the bottom 20% income group will see their income decrease by about 4%, while the top 1% could see an increase of nearly 4%. That's why there are concerns that this bill is not fair. That's why it's not easy to pass, and if you look at it this way, it seems likely. Now, and the most notable figure recently is the United States Treasury Secretary. Currently, the United States national debt stands at $36.22 trillion, and Moody's recently adjusted the United States credit rating outlook to negative due to the continued increase in debt over the past 10 years. Now, let's listen to the opinion of Mark Zandi, the chief economist at Moody's Analytics, who has been a consistent critic regarding this issue. He's giving a clear warning about the current market situation. We need to listen to this carefully, according to Alex. Now, let's take a closer look and listen to some different opinions. RSM United States Limited Liability Partnerships Chief Economist Joseph Bruce-Wellis is coming up next. The yield spread between the 10-year and 30-year bonds is widening, which is interpreted as a sign that awareness of safe assets in the United States is growing. The spread we're talking about here refers to the difference in yields. So, it means that the interest you receive when you lend money to the United States government for 10 years and the interest you receive when you lend money for 30 years is getting farther apart. The reason is, for a 10-year bond, you know how the United States will pay you back, so you can lend money at a lower interest rate. But for 30 years, since you don't know what will happen to the United States in the future, you need to get a little more interest to feel comfortable lending your money for that long. If you look at it this way, you can see how investors think. The yield curve is flattening and foreign capital inflows are decreasing. And due to high inflation, trust in government bonds is also declining. If you put all these factors together, you can see that the national finances are deteriorating right now. Now, investors are becoming more concerned about the government's fiscal spending, taxes, debt, inflation, and the outlook for economic growth. This is making investors more sensitive to risk and more cautious. What this means is, usually when we build a portfolio, we put safe assets and risky assets together. But typically, safe assets have been represented by United States government bonds. Now, however, those bonds are no longer playing that traditional role. And that's what's causing this concern. As a result, there is a growing demand for higher interest rates. This is explained as the main reason behind the recent rapid expansion of the spread in the current market. And the important thing is that as the bond market becomes more volatile like this, it is also affecting the stock market. The influx of capital into the chase market is leading to the rise of risk assets. Now, the bond market is leading the trend in the stock market. When the bond market was weak, the United States stock market was also weak. This is what it means when we say the bond market was weak. It means that bond prices were weak. When that happens, interest rates rise due to their inverse relationship. The sharp rise in bond yields is a warning about the instability of the United States fiscal situation and the deterioration of its credit as a safe asset. So the outlook for the United States is not looking very good. That's what the article is saying. So I wanted to share my thoughts on this article with you all. Let me show you one more image below. This is what you call a high yield spread, right? So what is a high yield spread? The chart displays the additional interest rate investors require for junk bonds credit risk compared to regular bonds. Viewing it this way clarifies the concept. Now, what this means is, among the bonds we talk about, there are bonds with high ratings and bonds with low ratings. So, for example, when a country borrows money, since it's the country itself that's guaranteeing the repayment, there's not much risk. That's why the interest rate is low, even if there's no collateral. But then, there are also high yield, risky bonds, and these are what we usually call junk bonds. These are typically bonds from small to mid-sized companies that are struggling or have poor credit. Lending to such companies involves taking on more risk. As you can see, high-yield bonds offer much higher returns depending on the economic situation due to their extremely high interest rates. For example, if you look at the United States economy, when it's doing very well, even small companies are able to operate successfully. In that case, the risk premium or the extra interest tends to decrease. But on the other hand, if the economy starts to slow down or the future of the United States becomes uncertain, then small companies are at a higher risk of going bankrupt. That's why the interest rates can rise sharply. When people say high-yield bond spreads are widening, it means the gap between safe and risky assets is growing. That's the way to view it. Now let's take a look at the chart. Due to concerns about Trump, the spread widened, but then it recovered to normal levels. Now, if you look here, you can see that due to Trump's tariffs, the spread widened significantly. The reason for this is that it's difficult for small businesses to borrow money, but the bond spread widened dramatically. It has now dropped to the 321 basis point level. Well, what that means is, in the current situation, we can conclude that the risk of recession in the United States is quite low. However, if the recession risk rises sharply, no one will want to buy government bonds. But right now, even though government bonds aren't offering much interest, investment money is still flowing in. So to sum up, the current recession risk in the United States is very low. That's the conclusion we can draw. The credit rating of United States Treasury bonds remains stable in the United States market. Even though there are concerns about the current state of the United States government, United States Treasury bonds are still considered the safest asset in the world. So, if the yield on such a safe asset like United States Treasury bonds rises to 5%, then riskier assets like junk bonds with a 10% yield or even stock investments will become much less attractive. That's what it means. If you take on risk and invest in the S&P 500, you should be able to earn about 10%, but right now you can get a 5% return just by investing in bonds. So, when interest rates are high in the stock market, the possibility of money moving to the bond market increases. That's how we can understand this situation. However, unless the Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates as promised, and if they pause now, if this signal becomes clear, the stock market could return to a stable trend. Recently, bond yields have been rising continuously, but if they don't go up any further and have already peaked, that's the point. Right now, the current budget adjustment plan is facing a deadlock in the National Assembly, but this situation needs to be resolved. If Hojai Kwan, an official link to economic indicators that may forecast inflation, makes a further statement, it suggests that national finances are less likely to worsen. I am personally looking forward to it like this. I will continue to check various indicators of the United States stock market. If you look at the leading market indicators recently, as most of the S&P 500 stocks have fallen, the market indicators have dropped to 65 and 67, and the long-term trend line has also fallen below 50. Currently, only 48.4% of stocks are trading above the moving average over the past 200 days, as shown here. And the volatility index has also gone up. Currently, VIX has been rising until the 20th and 6th, and now it is forming above the 200-day moving average. We need to watch if this trend continues. The fear and greed index is still not showing any signs of panic. If it goes up to 66, it will continue to stay in the overbought zone. The market score for the choice stocks is also not bad. It's showing a high score of 84, which is quite impressive. What do you think about that? The market sentiment is still quite strong, and you can clearly see that this part is continuing to rise. Next, we have the performance of the United States options trading. Majuon's top picks increased from 18 to 19 items. We added Google to the top of the list. The reason I added Google, which recently showed a strong performance among S&P 500 stocks, will be explained in more detail shortly. Besides Google, 2 other stocks also went up. B2 went up by 2.79%, which was impressive, and Celestica also rose by 1.2%, continuing its upward trend. Bitcoin has also been on a strong upward trend recently, surpassing $71,000, so you can see that the upward momentum continues. All the other stocks fell. Meta dropped by 0.25%. Broadcom fell by 0.84%, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company by 0.87%, AMD by 1.28%, Amazon by 1.45%, Netflix by 1.92%, and Nvidia by 1.92%. Tesla minus 2.41%, Credit Technology minus 2.67%, Tesla minus 2.68%, Vista minus 3.16%, Trade Desk minus 3.36%, MicroStrategy minus 3.41%, Uber minus 3.48%. Lastly, Palantir dropped by 3.99%, which was the worst performance. For a short time today, I will promote the paid all-in-one membership that I am running. I mentioned that I do live broadcasts only for paid members, so if you received this email, you are one of the 2 groups. The content of this email is about the benefits you get when you join as a paid member, so please read it carefully. So if you just take a look, you can check that there is a variety of information inside the series. If you listen to the example, the special content for paid members is the place where I upload articles that I write directly, that's all. Oh, Minjuni is working hard to quickly and accurately deliver important news related to the United States stock market to many people in Korea. Here you can find only the articles that are focused on the United States stock market. You can check today's United States stock market outlook only on the all-in-one members corner. On Consumer News and Business Channel News or Bloomberg Television, you can also find interviews with various experts and CEOs from different industries. Here, you can directly check the videos from various people. Most of them are in English, but through dubbing you can also watch these videos in Korean. That's the key point, and that's how you can watch them. So, what about today's analysis of the United States stock market with me? You can read detailed analysis articles about a specific company or a specific sector in Korean. As you can see here, I am already sharing detailed analysis content with over 1,300 people. In addition, I have added more sectors. This is a new corner that I just started, and besides the United States and top picks, I am analyzing and posting sectors that you might be interested in here. I am sharing my personal opinions with all of you. Now, if you look here, there is a Mizon portfolio sharing section. The Mizon portfolio sharing is a program where I share my stock purchases in real time with Mizon members whenever I buy or sell stocks. I do this for a reason. Don't simply buy and sell stocks based on my actions. That's not my intention. The important thing here is that I am sharing my United States stock-related content with many people, and I am a kind of tester to keep track of the performance of that content. That's how you should see it. Providing information can be helpful to someone. When I look at it, it's easy to say, this stock is like this, or this opinion is like that. But actually taking responsibility for those opinions is a very difficult thing to do. So I share this kind of information about certain stocks with many people, and I form my own opinions based on that information. It's very easy to express even personal opinions, but I still hold these kinds of opinions. I'm investing directly like this. Revealing everything up to this point is a very difficult process, in my opinion. And if I end up revealing even the level of returns I'm getting through this process too, starting from the information on the economy, I share my thoughts on this information, and then I actually put those thoughts into practice. I share everything, including the results of those actions, without leaving anything out. I think you can refer to this process in the all-in-one member section if you want. And the United States Stock Highlights are a corner where I organize and share the most important events of the week every Monday. The earnings season is a time when several companies announce their earnings results. Every 3 months, when each company announces its earnings, I organize and share all of them at once so you can stay informed. And besides that, whenever the 13F file is released, I analyze whether smart money is currently buying or selling, break it down, and share it with you all. In addition, I'm also developing a program that continuously collects various news using artificial intelligence voice recognition. I think it would be possible to organize and download the investment activities of various people through different contents. And finally, once a month, I conduct interviews with our online members through live broadcasts. Even if you just joined, you can watch the previous live broadcasts. If you look here, I've left a link for the live broadcast just for our online members. If you click the link here, you can listen to the previous broadcast. So even if it's not a real-time live, you can still watch the video, which is about 1 hour and 11 minutes long, along with everyone else. I hope you'll check it out together. If you're unsure about your membership, check the membership page. After joining, you'll see over 700 posts on the right side of the best posts section. You'll find the full post list. Click there. You can read various reviews from many people, either by popularity or by the most recent ones. Recently, after joining, many people have left messages about why they decided to join. If you refer to the opinions of other members, it will help you decide whether or not to join. I wanted to tell you that. Recently, I saw on a broadcast that my name was mentioned as a Bitcoin whale. I wanted to share this story with many people. Yesterday, Bitcoin actually hit its all-time high. So today, let's take a look at the reasons behind Bitcoin's all-time high and also consider whether this all-time high will have any impact on the United States stock market. I'll share my thoughts on these points as well. Bitcoin has reached its all-time high. In the United States, as the stablecoin-related bill progresses, there are growing expectations for regulatory clarity from the Treasury Department. Let me explain again about the stablecoin here. It's a digital currency, but its value is linked to the dollar. Stablecoins have no price fluctuations as they are tied to the dollar, unlike virtual assets, which are just virtual assets. So does that mean the legal status of stablecoins is different? The United States digital asset market is expected to grow. If that occurs, Bitcoin news could be interpreted more positively. Bitcoin recently recorded a high of $109,500 and then turned downward. Now it has exceeded $110,000. The crypto market is trending upwards, driven by anticipated regulatory easing in the United States. Especially the Stablecoin Act is making progress in the United States Congress. Some members of the Democratic Party have expressed their opposition. In that way, fundamental reforms are being pushed forward. So, if we proceed with this kind of initial support, the possibility of passing it this week is high, according to Jong Ri. Now, the founder of DigiSet, Chief Executive Officer Michael Noble, is here. According to Gary Gensler, the Securities and Exchange Commission chairman, the United States government is accepting our industry. So before, the regulations were way too strict, but now the government is becoming more friendly toward Bitcoin, and that's why things are changing like this. Now, this kind of regulatory change is being evaluated as having stimulated investment sentiment domestically. Now, and as I mentioned earlier, it's the same in the options market. The Bitcoin exchange traded fund package led by Kang Se is now being actively discussed. The highest open interest in options was for the $110,000, $120,000, and $300,000 strike prices expiring on June 27th. In the last 24 hours, there has been a sharp increase in call option buying for strike prices above $110,000. So, there are a lot of people betting on a sharp rise in Bitcoin. Options trading is happening very actively, and you can see that from this. What about the open interest in Bitcoin futures contracts on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange? It has recovered by around 23% since the April low this year. In the United States, about $36 billion has flowed into 12 types of Bitcoin ETFs just since May. So, funds continue to flow into ETFs, the number of orders is increasing, and overall, there are a lot of people who are bullish on Bitcoin. That's how it looks. Bitcoin has risen about 17% so far this year. If that's the case, it's showing better performance than other risky assets like United States stocks. What is the background behind this kind of rise? MicroStrategy, which is now called a strategy company, is a company that aggressively buys Bitcoin, and its stock price is rising. There are many companies that are buying Bitcoin following MicroStrategy. So the second, third, and fourth strategies and so on, companies are continuing to follow the strategy, as you can see. For reference, Strategy currently holds about $50 billion worth of Bitcoin. Also, small startups established by separating Bitcoin-related businesses, as well as traditional companies like Shinkion and Crypto, are providing opportunities for various types of Bitcoin investments, such as conversion companies or priority-based models. Well, that's not all. Han Pian, one of the founders of Center Pitch, is also promoting the establishment of 21 Capital Incorporated, which follows the business model of Strategy's vision, in collaboration with SoftBank and Tether, the issuer of stablecoin. Is the investor in Stripe Enterprise, which was jointly founded by Rivet, Lamas, and Wami. Nasdaq Chief Executive Officer, S.E. Entintich, is planning to transform the company into a cryptocurrency financial business by merging with Bitcoin. It will become the second Stripe. That's the plan. In 2021, GameStop was at the center of the stock market frenzy, and many of you probably remember it. Last March, the board of directors announced a plan to enter the payment business by using Bitcoin as a reserve asset. So the company is holding a lot of cash, and the board decided to convert some of those cash reserves into Bitcoin. That's what happened, and this is how it looks. So that's how it is now. It's not just individual investors, but also large corporations that have started buying Bitcoin, both you and I. People are buying Bitcoin, and many companies have fully transitioned to being Bitcoin businesses, such as cryptocurrency exchanges and related industries. Because of this background, it's understandable that Bitcoin could reach its all-time high. I tried to explain it as simply as possible. Let me wrap up with one last word. As I mentioned again on YouTube on May 21st, currently in the market, Bitcoin-related stocks are considered essential assets in all investor portfolios. Let me explain that reason once again. To explain again, when the economy improves due to positive news, tech stocks can rise, and Bitcoin can also go up along with them. On the other hand, when the economy declines due to negative news and tech stocks fall, Bitcoin can also drop together. Recently, it seems like Bitcoin is able to play the role of a hedge. The other day as well, when there were concerns about the United States economy, the stock market dropped sharply. So, the United States stock market went down. However, Bitcoin hit its all-time high yesterday. Recently, even when other assets are falling or rising, Bitcoin is showing a different trend on its own. Bitcoin's rise can be seen as a positive signal for the stock market. Let me explain why. Now let's examine the reason more closely. Now, as you can see in the image in front of you, I have compared and analyzed the price chart of Bitcoin and the stock price chart of the S&P 500. Now the time when Bitcoin reached its all-time high earlier this year was January 20th, 2025. And then, about a month later, the S&P 500 reached its all-time high. It was 6,144. What this means is that Bitcoin can sometimes lead the stock market by about a month, as you can see here. Now, if you look at the similar stock price chart again, it's almost the same as Bitcoin. Once again, it hit an all-time high recently. The United States stock market is likely to reach a new all-time high in about a month, so we can be optimistic about its future performance. Next, we prepared news related to volatility in the morning. Palantir has reportedly won a contract extension worth $178.9 million with the United States military. Let me briefly explain the details. What kind of company is Palantir, the American data analytics software company? The United States Army contract is worth $795 million, equivalent to over 1.1 trillion Korean won. They've managed to secure such large-scale contracts. This contract is related to supplying the Maven Smart System software license, which is an artificial intelligence-based military information analysis system, and it is said to play a key role in building an integrated system. The expected contract end date is May 28, 2029. Now let me explain this in more detail. The explanation about the Maven smart system is here with me. Project Maven is an artificial intelligence-based video analysis program for the United States Department of Defense. Artificial intelligence automatically analyzes the footage collected from drones and satellites, and it is used to help make military decisions. Palantir is a core software partner of this program, providing machine learning-based data processing and visualization tools. This contract extends the existing one, serving as a revision that includes technology support, increased user access, and expanded licenses. So then let's take a closer look at what this contract actually means from the perspective of the parties involved. Now about this contract. The reason this contract is so important is because it is expected to serve as a driving force for the expansion of the bio-industry and government sectors. Considering the contract period lasts until 2029, this contract is significant because it's a mid to long-term agreement based on stable sales and continuous cash flow, providing Palantir with steady revenue over an extended period. Palantir's ongoing partnership with the United States Department of Defense demonstrates its technological capabilities and reliability, making it a prime example. Therefore, the expansion of such large-scale contracts is expected to have a positive impact on both the private and business sectors in the future. The United States government, formerly reliant on budgets, is now spending more. It's only a matter of time before Palantir's technological capabilities are fully established. Therefore, it is expected that Palantir will continue to play an increasingly important and positive role in securing additional business in the future. Next is the momentum indicator. Among the 26 indicators, 5 are showing a buy signal, 10 are neutral, and 11 are showing a sell signal. Now, if we go down and look at the 6-month chart, the price chart doesn't look that good. The reason is that the highest point was around $126, but after reaching that peak, it started to fall again. So right now, it's hard to recommend buying. And if you look here, the recommendation line is also shaky. So if it drops a bit more today in the short term and the trend line breaks downward, then the possibility of an upward trend this time will be low. I believe it's crucial to focus on this key point now. This is just my view. Next, I think we need to pay attention to the Google story. I've recently noticed many discussions about Google on forums and message boards I follow. The reason is because of concerns about Google's search sales. Out of all the ad sales, about 60% comes from Google search, but that number has dropped to 56%. So if we suddenly stop using search as much as we do now, Google's sales could take a huge hit. Because of these concerns, Google made a statement during the recent earnings call. But this time I looked closely at Google's earnings call and listened carefully. And so I personally started to think that maybe it's not quite right to give up on Google just yet. Please summarize the content specifically. Despite Apple's artificial intelligence announcement at Worldwide Developers Conference, Alphabet's stock price has not significantly declined. Google I/O 2025 Google's annual event has commenced. And at this event, I would like to evaluate that there were many impressive artificial intelligence innovations focused on user experience. Of course, there are still some concerns about Google's search revenue. Google Search has always played a unique role. So, what about this event? To address the concerns of these investors, I want to clarify that it's not completely unfounded, but I would say it's somewhat exaggerated. Now let me summarize the main points of the announcement in my own way. The first point is Gemini. Gemini is currently competing with ChatGPT. They gave the impression that they won't be falling behind. Gemini 2.5 Pro and Flash have been released. Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is a fully upgraded version with improved performance, and the more lightweight and efficient Gemini 2.5 Flash have both been introduced. Especially Gemini 2.5 Pro stands out. A dedicated notebook for summarizing recommendations. If you look at it, it's like a notebook where you neatly organize and summarize what you've read. This time they've introduced intelligent features like agent mode, which can perform tasks on behalf of the user. Personally, I have joined and am using more free memberships. Let me show you here. I'm using Kyobo Book Club, and I'm also a member of Plus membership. And in the case of Google, I'm also a member of Gemini Pro. So I'm using both at the same time and comparing which one works better in my own way. The conclusion I've come to recently is almost the same. Personally, when Jaimina announced 2 and 5 this time, I started to think that maybe she's a little ahead. And the second one is that artificial intelligence is always listening. That's this part. Frankly, PT can't do that. Google has an incredible number of successful apps. So it's Gemini. Gmail, also known as Q Ril Iran Neunji, is one of the many popular Google services. Google's various products are integrated, especially in Q Ril, and almost everyone uses Google services. We can bookmark the web pages we are looking at and get recommendations for information, and we can also receive benefits. Gmail now offers in-inbox translation. Google Docs also improved its real-time translation. So now when you communicate with foreigners or send emails, translation happens instantly. As you can see, it works like this. Next is Google's artificial intelligence search. This is the highlight of this announcement. The most attention-grabbing feature introduced this time is Google's artificial intelligence search mode. Initially named Artificial Intelligence Overview, it only summarized information. Now it has been fully revamped. Gemini 2.5 powered artificial intelligence mode has been added to Google Search. This is what it looks like. Through this, you can search for answers to complex questions directly, and you can also handle follow-up questions. Until now, we had to go to Google and search with keywords. Previously, entering a single word would only yield related answers. Now you can input an entire sentence. So now you can enter complex sentences and you can even ask follow-up questions. A huge difference has been made. Search results and artificial intelligence generated information are being integrated to enhance the search experience, taking it to a new level. This is how it appears. I have organized the core functions here for you. At the top of the search results, an artificial intelligence summary card is automatically generated. For example, if you search for travel courses in New York with your child for a week, artificial intelligence comprehensively analyzes blogs, locations, and data to provide you with a highly tailored recommendation schedule. So you can just follow the schedule as it is. So in the past, when you searched for a New York trip, it used to just show you things like this, but now you can search for a specific travel course for a week with your child in a much more concrete way. And then the second step is to organize the multi-step schedule. This means that you can add several conditions and requests to a single question, and it will provide you with an organized answer. Simply put, it's not just answering a single question in a separate way, but rather combining everything together. It means understanding the context. When we ask a question, this person tries to figure out why we're asking it and then gives an answer based on that. That's how it works. And if you look closely, this is quite decisive. Google also announced that it will start advertising tests in another artificial intelligence mode. The search results are not simply displayed below the ads as links. Instead, ads are naturally blended into the artificial intelligence, generated summary answers, making them look seamless. Therefore, from the consumer's perspective, it's very difficult to tell whether something is an ad or not, and it's also much harder to avoid or ignore them by simply clicking away. So, in terms of advertising placement, this could be more effective than previous methods. We can imagine how this might work. So, to sum up, in the past, Google used to put keywords inside the search ads, but now, instead of just keywords, they are putting in whole sentences. Let's try using the example again. For instance, if you plan a week-long trip to New York with your child and provide the artificial intelligence with detailed information about your travel plans, it will organize and provide a personalized response, simulating interaction with a real person. But what's more important here is that advertisements are included here. So, when you recommend a travel course, you'll see that various restaurants, hotels, and other recommendations are naturally included in the answer. If that happens, we can understand that the proportion of ads coming from Google search will gradually decrease. This new feature will officially start being applied to American users at the end of May. So it starts now, and this is how it will look. Besides that, it will also help with image and video creation. This time, InResin 4 Flow and most importantly, Actor 3 have been released. Actor 3 is notable for several reasons. This time, Sorara, a program called Sorara, was introduced during the keynote presentation by Zhang An. It was a program that creates videos, but this version is a much upgraded version compared to the previous Sorara. As you can see here, it's quite impressive. It's an amazing innovation. It even includes sound here, so once you input the story, we can now easily create videos. A new era is opening up, and this kind of editing is now possible. Google demonstrated expanding and innovating the platform this time around. Meta is developing a smart environment, and Apple is creating Vision Pro. Both companies are working on these projects simultaneously. And there's one more thing I'd like to add. 3D video calls, which are called Google Bera, were actually created by Google in collaboration with Hewlett-Packard. Previously, the project was called Starline. It was introduced to several people at a YouTube channel a few years ago, so it has some history. When video chatting face-to-face, it feels like the other person is right in front of you. Now that this kind of thing has become a reality, I think we can say that it has been completed in a comprehensive way. This is Han Madi from Munhua Broadcasting Corporation News. So I thought Google was a company where the world's top talents were gathered, and I had a very high opinion of it. The dominant technology of the present era is artificial intelligence. I always emphasize this. And among the leading players who are driving the rise of artificial intelligence, I want to say once again that Google is definitely one of them. And most importantly, this time they explained a significant part of their strategy regarding search. The short-term risk of Google's main business slowing down has significantly decreased, but the mid to long-term outlook remains uncertain. I want to emphasize that a lot of concerns have been resolved compared to before. So, what was the title of the article we prepared for today? Once again, it's about Will Musk bring down Google's stock price? The connection between the two Korean companies, once fading, has been rekindled. Due to actions by Tesla Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk, Uber's stock price has fallen once again. I will present the information clearly, covering both companies' potential and my views based on their history. In this article, an artificial intelligence called MySon will read it for you using my voice. That's all for today. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us until the end of the broadcast. Let's keep fighting together until the day when all of us can retire from investing in the United States stock market. Have a happy day. Thank you. Uber's stock price closed down 3.17% on Wednesday. This is a reaction after Elon Musk, Tesla Chief Executive Officer, said that there is no need to acquire Uber. In an interview with consumer news and business channels Mark Farber asked if Tesla acquiring Uber would be a strategic move for the company, and Elon Musk simply answered that there is no need for that. Uber has built a digital platform that connects ride-hailing and driver supply, but Elon Musk said that Tesla could develop its own app. He explained that there are already hundreds of thousands of these vehicles, and once the self-driving software is fully developed, these cars will be able to operate autonomously. So, Tesla owners could lend their cars to the Tesla network and earn income during the times they are not using their vehicles. It's like Airbnb for cars. On this day, the Dow Jones fell by 0.13%, while the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq dropped by 0.6% and 0.9% respectively. The impact of autonomous driving technology on the industry is still unclear. When Musk predicted the event at the end of 2023, there was a sense of skepticism regarding Uber. The event was finally held in October 2024. From the end of 2023 to the summer of 2024, Uber's stock price was expected to drop by 5%. But after Waymo announced its expansion into Austin and Atlanta through regulatory approval, it eased investors' concerns. Consequently, by summer 2024, it entered a bull market, up 55% from the previous low. The autonomous driving taxi market is not winner-takes-all. Providing vehicles in large quantities is expensive. Musk's strength is that there are already many customers who have purchased Tesla vehicles. On the other hand, if there is a partner like Uber, Waymo and Tesla can both share their own costs. Also, Uber cannot ignore brand power. Uber itself became synonymous with the service as the brand became more common. Musk's remarks were partly a preemptive move in response to the possibility of Uber's entry into Tesla, and may have been intended to keep some investors in check. Now, investors need to closely watch how the robotaxi market will actually unfold and decide who will be the winner. Currently, Uber's market value is about $19 billion, which is higher than the combined value of General Motors and Ford. Tesla is recording an industry value of over $1 trillion. Although it is impossible to know exactly who owns the shares in the middle, most analysts agree that much of Tesla's value is based on its artificial intelligence technology. Alphabet, Waymo's parent company, has a value exceeding $2 trillion, but Waymo's exact contribution to that value is uncertain. Most of Alphabet's revenue still comes from Google search advertising. In the global autonomous vehicle market, there are hundreds of billions, sometimes even trillions of dollars at stake, and this is why investors continue to pay close attention to companies like Uber. Han Madi from the United States notes that in the robotaxi market, Uber and Tesla compete, each with their own strengths and advantages. First, Uber already operates a huge platform in more than 70 countries and thousands of cities around the world, providing a vast pool of drivers and passengers, and has strong competitiveness in real-time ride-sharing algorithms and operational know-how. Since Uber already has high brand recognition and user trust, when a new technology like robotaxi is introduced, the large number of existing Uber users can naturally choose Uber's robotaxi service. Also, Uber is rapidly entering the global market by collaborating with various autonomous driving technology companies such as Waymo and Aurora. However, Uber's weaknesses are clear. Because Uber does not directly own or manufacture autonomous vehicles, it is entirely dependent on external infrastructure and must secure vehicles through partnerships or outsourcing, which is a structural limitation. Uber relies heavily on core technology, and its business structure remains unstable in terms of profitability. On the other hand, Tesla is a vertically integrated company that has built autonomous driving technology and hardware infrastructure in-house. Tesla is already collecting real-time driving data from hundreds of thousands of vehicles on the road, and based on this, it is continuously advancing its full self-driving technology. Meanwhile, Musk is pursuing a strategy to minimize initial expansion costs by introducing an Airbnb-like model where car owners can register their vehicles on the robotaxi network and earn income. Tesla's weakness is its inexperience in operating a platform. Though Tesla leads in vehicle production and self-driving tech, it lacks experience in running a real-time supply and demand platform. Also, since the full self-driving technology has not yet been approved as fully autonomous driving, there are legal, regulatory, and regional obstacles. In fact, this issue has not been resolved yet. As expectations for 2025 began to rise, Uber's stock price increased by more than 40%, while Tesla's stock price dropped by more than 10%. From this perspective, Uber is advantageous in the short term, since it can supply the market quickly through its already established platform and driver base. That's why. However, in the mid to long term, Tesla has the overwhelming advantage of being able to fully control the distribution of its vehicles. If autonomous driving technology becomes commercialized and regulatory approval is secured, Tesla could regain the market by leveraging its integrated competitiveness from hardware to software platforms. As Tesla's potential in the robotaxi service gains recognition, its investment value is likely to keep increasing relative to Uber. Thank you.